crystalline towers of Nexus Prime pierce the amber sky like frozen tears, their surfaces reflecting the twin suns that never quite warm the hearts below. In the shadow of these monuments to progress, a small figure huddles in the corner of the interspecies exchange market, her luminescent blue skin dimmed by exhaustion and hunger. Zara's delicate fingers trace the rough stone beneath her, each touch sending ripples of bioluminescent patterns across her arms, patterns that mark her as different, as broken, as unwanted. The merchants who sold her speak of defects and damaged goods, their voices echoing to the vast marketplace where dreams are bartered and souls are priced. But in the distant forests of Earth, beneath canopies of ancient oak and pine, a weathered man tends to his children's laughter, unaware that his world is about to expand beyond the stars themselves. The interspecies exchange market stretches across 17 levels of Nexus Prime's commercial district, a labyrinth of hovering platforms where the galaxy's unwanted gather like debris in a cosmic storm. Steam rises from food vendors serving delicacies to species whose biology Zara cannot comprehend, while holographic advertisements flash promises of new homes, new families, new chances at belonging. Zara sits motionless in her assigned corner, her bioluminescent patterns barely visible beneath the grime of 3 rotations without proper care. Her species, the Luminari, are prized across the galaxy for their empathic abilities and their role as companions to the elite. But Zara carries the mark of the broken. Her fertility indicators never developed, her empathic range stunted, her value reduced to that of decorative furniture. "Look at this one," says a Vorak merchant, his multiple eyes scanning Zara with the dispassion of someone appraising livestock. Damaged goods from Luminar Prime. The family was eager to get rid of her. The merchant's customer, a wealthy Terran woman draped in synthetic furs, wrinkles her nose in disgust. "She's so dim. I thought Luminari were supposed to glow." "This one is defective," the merchant explains, poking Zara with an electrified prod. The touch sends pain shooting through her nervous system, causing her patterns to flicker weakly. But she's trainable, good for basic household tasks. Very obedient. Zara keeps her eyes fixed on the floor, her mind retreating to memories of her home world. Crystalline forests where the trees sang in harmony with her people's light, where even the broken were cherished for the unique songs they could create. Her parents had whispered apologies as they handed her over to the traders, their own patterns dim with shame and desperation. "How much?" the Terran woman asks, already losing interest. "For you, Lady Castellan, just 2,000 credits. The woman laughs, a harsh sound that cuts through the marketplace ambience. 2,000 for a broken Luminari? I wouldn't pay 200. As the potential buyers walk away, their voices fading into cacophony of the market, Zara's patterns pulse once, a brief flash of something deeper than sadness, something that speaks of reservoirs of strength that even she doesn't recognize. But while the galaxy saw only damaged goods, across the stars a lonely father was about to make a decision that would change everything. Thomas Brennan stands in the communication booth of Earth's remote territory station, his calloused hands gripping a datapad that displays the interspecies exchange market's catalog. Rain pounds against the station's dome, creating rivers of water that blur the forest landscape beyond. His 4 children wait in the transport, their faces pressed against the windows, watching him with the patient trust of those who have learned that their father always finds a way. At 42, Thomas carries the weight of recent loss in the lines around his eyes. His wife, Maria, had died 8 months ago in a shuttle accident, leaving him to raise Emma, 12, the twins, Jake and Lucy, 10, and little Sam, just 6. The children help with the logging operation that keeps them fed, but they need more than Thomas can provide alone. They need someone who understands that a family is more than survival. These are the available companions in your price range, the station operator explains, his voice carrying the bureaucratic indifference of someone who processes tragedy as routine data. Most humans prefer the Andromedans or the Centauri. They're more compatible with human social structures. Thomas scrolls through profiles of beings whose beauty and perfection feel alien to his world of sawdust and scraped knees. Each potential companion comes with testimonials about their abilities, their breeding potential, their value as status symbols. The prices make his stomach clench. Years of income for creatures that seem more like living art than family members. Then he sees her. The image is poorly lit. showing a small figure with blue-tinted skin and patterns that seem to shift even in the static photograph. The description is brief and filled with disclaimers. Damaged luminary female. Age approximately 16 in Terran years. Fertility compromised. Empathic abilities limited. Suitable for basic household tasks. Price negotiable. This one, Thomas says, pointing to Zara's profile. How much? The operator looks surprised. Sir, that's a defective unit. There are much better options in your range. The Arcturian females are known for their domestic skills, and several Centauri are available for how much for this one? Thomas repeats, his voice carrying the quiet authority of a man who has made his decision. 800 credits, the operator says after checking his database. But sir, I must warn you, Luminari require special care. Their biology is complex, and this particular individual has significant limitations. Thomas pulls out his credit chip, the one that contains the funds he had saved for a new logging rig. Process the transaction. As the paperwork generates, Thomas studies Zara's image again. There's something in her expression, even captured in that poor photograph, that reminds him of his children in their quieter moments, a resilience that speaks of survival against impossible odds. But as his transaction completes and the arrangements begin for Zara's transport to Earth, neither he nor the alien girl trapped in her corner of the marketplace realize that this simple act of compassion is about to unravel secrets that have remained hidden for generations. The transport ship Mercy's edge cuts through the void between Nexus Prime and Earth's outer territories, its cargo hold filled with the galaxies displaced and unwanted. Zara sits in a corner of the passenger compartment, her travel documents marking her as property transferred to Thomas Brennan, Earth Sector 7. She has not spoken since leaving the marketplace. The other passengers, refugees, laborers, and a few other purchase companions, give her space, recognizing something fragile in her silence. Her patterns have been dark for hours, a state that among her people indicates either deep illness or profound grief. The ship's medical bay is staffed by a gruff Centauri doctor named Thex, who checks on the passengers with the efficiency of someone who has seen too much suffering to be surprised by any of it. When he approaches Zara, his scanner immediately begins beeping warnings. "When did you last eat?" he asks in Galactic Standard, his voice gentler than his appearance suggests. Zara looks up at him, her large eyes reflecting an intelligence that contradicts her documentation. "For cycles," she whispers, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "For cycles." Thex's secondary arms reach for nutrition packets from his kit. That's too long even for luminary metabolisms. As Zara accepts the nutrition packet, her fingers brush against Thex's hand, and suddenly the doctor freezes. For just a moment, his face shows wonder instead of professional detachment. "By the ancient stars," he breathes. "Child, where are you?" Before Zara can answer, the ship's intercom crackles to life. "All passengers, prepare for Earth orbital approach. Temperature is 13 degrees Celsius. Humidity at 67%. Welcome to the edge of the galaxy." Zara presses her face to the small porthole beside her seat. Below, Earth turns like a blue and green jewel, its single moon casting silver light across vast oceans. Forests spread across the continents like dark green velvet, and somewhere in those forests, a family waits without knowing that their definition of normal is about to expand. "Never seen Earth before?" Thex asks, settling into the seat beside her. "Never seen any world but Nexus Prime and my birth world." Zara admits. "The traders said Earth is primitive. They said humans are simple." Thex makes a sound that might be laughter. "Simple, perhaps, but I've found that sometimes the simple ones see things the rest of us miss." As the ship descends through Earth's atmosphere, Zara watches clouds part around them like curtains revealing a stage. The forest grows larger and more detailed until she can see individual trees swaying in winds that carry sense her enhanced senses can detect even through the ship's filtration systems. Pine and earth and something else, something that speaks of home fires and children's laughter. "Dr. Thex," she says quietly, "what if they don't want me?" The Centauri doctor looks at her with eyes that have seen the rise and fall of civilizations. "Child, I've learned that family isn't about wanting. It's about choosing to see value where others see flaws." But what he doesn't tell her is what his scanner detected during their brief contact. Energy readings that suggest this broken luminary carries genetic markers that haven't been seen in the galaxy for over 1,000 years. The landing pad at Earth Station 7 is little more than a cleared field surrounded by towering pines, their branches heavy with morning frost. The Mercy's edge settles onto the permacrete with a hiss of hydraulics, and Zara watches through the porthole as figures emerge from a weathered ground vehicle. Thomas Brennan looks different than she expected. The humans she had seen on Nexus Prime were sleek and polished, their clothes shimmering with technology. This man wears simple work clothes stained with sawdust and oil, his hands rough from labor. Beside him stand 4 children, ranging from a tall girl with serious eyes to a small boy who bounces with barely contained excitement. "That's your new family," Thex says gently, helping Zara gather her meager belongings, a small bag containing a few items her birth parents had allowed her to keep. Zara's patterns begin to pulse softly, betraying her nervousness. "They look kind," she whispers. "Kindness can be more valuable than wealth," Thex replies. "Remember that, child." The ship's cargo ramp lowers, and Zara finds herself walking toward the Brennan family on legs that feel unsteady. The air is different here, cleaner than Nexus Prime, filled with scents that make her enhanced senses sing, pine sap and with smoke, the earthy smell of recent rain, and underneath it all, something warm and welcoming. Thomas steps forward, and Zara notices that he doesn't tower over the way most humans do. He's tall, but not imposing, and when he speaks, his voice carries the same gentleness she heard from Dr. Thex. "Hello, Zara," he says, offering his hand rather than demanding submission. "I'm Thomas. These are my children, Emma, Jake, Lucy, and Sam." Zara stares at the offered hand, uncertain. On Nexus Prime, she had been handled like property, poked and prodded and examined. But Thomas waits patiently, letting her choose. When she finally places her small hand in his larger one, her patterns flare bright blue-white, an involuntary response to the contact. Thomas's eyes widen slightly, but not with fear or disgust, with wonder. "You're beautiful," says Sam, the youngest boy, stepping forward without fear. "Are you magic?" Emma, the eldest, shoots her brother a warning look. "Sam, that's rude." But Zara's patterns shift to a warmer hue, and for the first time in months, she almost smiles. "I'm not magic," she tells Sam. "I'm just different." "Different can be good," Thomas says, his voice firm with conviction. "Different makes our family stronger." As they load into the family's ground vehicle, a battered hover truck that smells of pine needles and coffee, Zara notices how the children interact with their father. There's love here and patience, and something she hasn't seen since leaving her birth world. Acceptance without conditions. The journey to the Brennan homestead takes them through forests that seem to stretch forever, past lakes that mirror the sky and clearings where deer graze without fear. Zara presses her face to the window, her patterns shifting through the spectrum as her emotions cycle between hope and terror. "It's not much," Thomas says as they approach a cluster of buildings nestled in a valley between rolling hills. "But it's home." The main house is built from local timber, its lines clean and simple. Solar collectors gleam on the roof, and smoke rises from a stone chimney. Outbuildings house equipment and lumber, and a vegetable garden shows the brown stubble of winter's approach. It's nothing like the crystal spires of Nexus Prime or the organic curves of Luminari architecture, but something about it speaks to Zara's heart. "Where will I sleep?" she asks quietly, expecting to be shown to a storage room or servants' quarters. Emma speaks up. "We cleaned out the spare bedroom. It's next to mine, if that's okay." Zara's patterns pulse so brightly that the truck's interior is bathed in blue light. For a moment, no one speaks, and Zara fears she has revealed too much, shown capabilities that mark her as more than the simple domestic help Thomas thought he was purchasing. But Thomas just smiles. "I think you could fit in just fine." What he doesn't know is that Zara's light has just awakened something in the forest around them, something that has been sleeping for centuries, waiting for the return of the one whose patterns carry the signature of ancient queens. 3 weeks into her new life, Zara has learned the rhythm of the Brennan household. She rises before dawn to help Emma prepare breakfast, tends a small greenhouse where Thomas grows winter vegetables, and listens to Sam's endless questions about stars and aliens and whether her home world is dragons. Her patterns have brightened considerably. shifting from the dull gray of despair to soft blues and greens that reflect the peace of her new surroundings. But tonight is different. Tonight, as Zara sits by the living room fire, helping Lucy with her mathematics homework, something in the forest calls to her. It's not a sound that the others can hear. It resonates at frequencies that only luminary senses can detect, a harmonic that speaks of ancient power awakening. Zara, Lucy asks, looking up from her equations, "Are you okay? You're really bright right now." Zara looks down at herself and realizes that her patterns are pulsing in complex sequences she doesn't consciously control. The light is bright enough to read by, casting shifting shadows on the walls. "I'm sorry," she whispers, trying to dim her patterns. "Sometimes they do this when I feel things strongly." Thomas looks up from the reports he's reviewing at the kitchen table. "You don't have to apologize for who you are. Zara, we're learning to understand your signals." But the call from the forest grows stronger, and Zara finds herself standing without conscious decision. I need to go outside for a moment." "It's late," Emma says with the protective instinct of an older sister. "And it's cold." "I won't go far," Zara promises. "Just to the edge of clearing." Thomas considers this, then nods. "Take the emergency beacon, and if anything feels wrong, you come straight back." Zara steps onto the porch, and immediately her patterns respond to whatever is calling from the darkness beyond the house lights. The autumn air carries scents that her enhanced senses parse into a complex symphony: earth and decomposing leaves, the musk of distant animals, and something else, something that smells like starlight and ancient promises. She walks to the edge of the cleared space around the house where the forest begins in earnest. The trees here are old, their trunks thick enough that it would take several people holding hands to encircle them. In the moonlight, their branches create a canopy that blocks out all but the brightest stars. And then she sees them, lights moving between the trees. Not the harsh beams of human technology, but soft glows that pulse in patterns similar to her own. As they draw closer, Zara realizes they're not mechanical lights at all, but living creatures, plant perhaps, or fungi, shaped like delicate flowers that float through the air on gossamer wings. They surround her with gentle curiosity, their patterns responding to hers in a language older than civilization. And through their light song, Zara hears something impossible, the voice of Earth herself. "You have returned." The voice whispers in harmonics that bypass her ears and speak directly to her spirit. "The heir to the first light walks among us again." "I don't understand," Zara whispers back, her patterns shifting to confuse purples and golds. "Your people called them Luminina Prima, the first light, before the great scattering, before the wars that sent your species fleeing across the stars. They lived here. They were the bridge between worlds, the speakers for all living things." The floating lights dance around Zara, and suddenly she can feel everything. Every tree in the forest, every creature sleeping in its den, the vast network of roots and fungal threads that connect all living things on this world. Earth is alive in ways her people never told her, and she is connected to it through genetic memories thousands of years old. "You are not broken," the voice continues. "You are sleeping, and it is time to wake." As the lights fade back into the forest, Zara stands alone in the clearing, her patterns now blazing so brightly that the house behind her is lit up like a beacon. Through the windows, she can see the Brennan family gathered at the glass, their faces filled not with fear, but with wonder. She turns back toward the house, toward the family that chose her when no one else would, and realizes that her story is just beginning. But as she walks back to the warmth and safety of home, she doesn't notice the dark shapes moving in the forest depths, beings that have been searching for the heir to the first light for a very long time, and who will stop at nothing to claim her. The message reaches Nexus Prime through channels that don't officially exist, carried by quantum-encrypted signals that bypass all standard galactic communication networks. In a boardroom high above the market where Zara was sold, 5 figures in shadow discuss information that could reshape the balance of power in known space. "The readings are confirmed," says the first figure, her voice carrying the synthetic precision of advanced cybernetic enhancement. Energy signature matches archived records from the Luminina Prima expedition. The girl is not merely luminary. She carries the bloodline of the first queens. "Impossible!" responds another voice, this one bearing the harmonic overtones of a gas giant dweller. The first light was extinguished in the Purge Wars. We made certain of that. Clearly, we did not, says a third figure, whose species remains hidden in the darkness. And now, she's on a primitive world, protected only by a human lumber worker and his offspring. A holographic display materializes above the table, showing Thomas Brennan's homestead from orbital surveillance. The image zooms in to reveal Zara in the greenhouse, her patterns glowing softly as she tends to seedlings with a touch that seems to accelerate their growth. The plants respond to her, observes the fourth figure. The awakening has begun. Then we move quickly. The fifth voice concludes with the authority of command. Retrieve the girl. Eliminate the witnesses. The galaxy cannot know that the Luminina Prima bloodline survived. Meanwhile, on Earth, Zara helps Sam with his evening bath, her presence filling the small bathroom with gentle light that makes the boy giggle with delight. She has been part of the Brennan family for 6 weeks now, and the routine feels as natural as breathing. Zara, Sam says as she pours warm water over his hair, will you tell me about your home world again? Which part would you like to hear? She asks, her patterns shifting to warm golds that reflect her contentment. The part about the singing trees, Sam says immediately, and the cities that float in the clouds. As Zara begins a familiar story, she doesn't notice the way Thomas pauses in the hallway outside the bathroom, listening to her voice with the same wonder he felt when she first arrived. Over the past weeks, he has watched her transform from a frightened refugee into something that seems almost too good to be real, a sister to his children, a source of gentle wisdom that helps heal the wounds left by their mother's death. But Thomas is not a fool, and he has begun to notice things. The way plants grow faster under Zara's care, the way animals from the forest come to the edge of the clearing just to be near her, the way her patterns sometimes pulse in sequences that feel like communications he cannot understand. Dad. Emma's voice interrupts his thoughts. She stands at the other end of the hallway, her expression troubled. There's something on the emergency frequency. Someone's asking about Zara. Thomas follows his daughter to the communication station, where a priority message waits on the screen. The sender is listed as Galactic Child Services, but something about the formal language feels wrong. To Thomas Brennan of Earth Sector 7, it has come to our attention that your recently acquired Luminari companion may have been sold under false documentation. We require immediate access to inspect the individual and verify her legal status. A representative will arrive within 72 standard hours. Compliance is mandatory under Galactic Acquisition Statute 47B. Emma looks at her father with the sharp intelligence that will one day make her a formidable woman. Dad, that's not real, is it? Galactic Child Services doesn't exist. Thomas's jaw tightens as he reads the message again. No, it doesn't. From the bathroom comes the sound of Sam's laughter and Zara's gentle voice, continuing the story of floating cities and crystal forests. In the greenhouse, the seedlings she tended are already showing their first true leaves weeks ahead of schedule. And in the forest beyond, the lights that had welcomed her 6 weeks ago begin to pulse with warning signals that speak of danger approaching from the stars. Thomas closes the communication channel and deletes the message, but they both know it's too late. Someone has found Zara, and they're coming for her. What Thomas doesn't know is that the approaching ship carries weapons capable of sterilizing entire planets, and its crew has orders to ensure that no witnesses remain to tell the story of the girl who carries the light of ancient queens. The ship drops out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, its stealth coating rendering it invisible to the primitive detection systems of the human colonies. Within its cramped bridge, 5 figures prepare for what they expect to be a routine extraction and cleanup operation. Planetary scans confirm the target is still at the specified location, reports the tactical officer, her multiple eyes focusing on data streams that flow across the command display. 4 human children, 1 adult male, and the Luminari female. Any signs of additional defenses? Asked the mission commander, a tall figure whose face remains hidden behind a tactical mask. None detected. Primitive agricultural settlement. Minimal technology. This should be simple. But 300 kilometers below, in a greenhouse filled with impossible growth, Zara suddenly stops mid-sentence as she reads to Sam from a book about Earth's native birds. Her patterns pulse once brilliantly, and every plant in the greenhouse responds with a burst of growth that fills the air with the green scent of spring. "Zara," Sam asks, looking up from the picture of a red cardinal. "What's wrong?" Before she can answer, Thomas bursts through the greenhouse door, his face grim with determination. "We need to go now." "Dad." Emma appears behind him, carrying the emergency supplies pack that Thomas had prepared weeks ago, hoping he would never need to use it. The scanners are showing an unregistered ship in orbit. Zara stands slowly, and for the first time since arriving on Earth, her patterns shift to the deep reds and blacks that among her people signal mortal danger. "They found me." "Who's found you?" Thomas asks. But even as he speaks, he's moving, checking the weapons locker he had hoped never to open. "The ones who kill my people's queens," Zara whispers. And suddenly, her voice carries harmonics that make the greenhouse windows vibrate. "The ones who scattered us across the galaxy to hide what we really are." High above, the ship's sensors detect the energy signature they've been hunting for centuries. "Commander," the tactical officer reports, her voice tight with excitement. "The target is manifesting at full power. The bloodline is confirmed." "Begin descent," the commander orders, "and prepare the sterilization charges. I want this world scoured clean." But in the forest around the Brennan homestead, something ancient stirs in response to Zara's call. The trees begin to whisper, their roots connecting across vast distances to carry news of the heir's awakening. Deep beneath the earth, fungal networks that predate human civilization pulse with information and purpose. And in the darkness between the trees, the lights that had welcomed Zara begin to gather in numbers that could illuminate half the continent. Thomas loads his family into the hover truck, his movements sharp with military precision that his children have never seen before. "Where are we going?" Lucy asks, her voice small with fear. "Somewhere safe," Thomas replies. But his eyes meet Zara's in the rearview mirror, and they both know there may be no such place for someone who carries a genetic memory of extinct royalty. As they drive deeper into forest, following logging roads that few humans know exist, Zara places her hand against the truck's window. Her patterns pulse in complex sequences, and suddenly the forest responds. Trees shift their branches to create clearer passages. Animals move out of their path without fear. And behind them, the lights begin to follow, not just dozens now, but thousands, creating a river of illumination that flows through the forest like liquid starlight. "By all the stars," Thomas breathes, watching the display in his mirrors. "Were you, Zara?" She looks at him with eyes that suddenly seem far older than her apparent 16 years. "I'm the last of something that was supposed to die," she says quietly, "and I think Earth has been waiting for me to come home." Above them, the hunter ship enters atmosphere, its weapon systems charging. But what its crew doesn't realize is that they haven't come to a defenseless world to claim a helpless refugee. They've entered the domain of the First Light, where the last heir of the Luminina Prima has finally remembered who she is, and Earth itself is about to remind the galaxy why the queens of old were revered and feared in equal measure. In the forest depths, Thomas Brennan, former military operative turned logger, father of four and now guardian of a living legend, checks his weapons one final time and prepares to defend his family against enemies who see worlds as acceptable casualties. What he doesn't know is that this night will mark the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history, written in light and blood beneath ancient trees that remember when queens walked between the stars and spoke for all living things. The last battle for the heritage of the First Light is about to begin. The hover truck barrels along narrow logging trails, branches scraping against its sides like desperate fingers. Thomas grips the controls with white-knuckled hands, his mind racing through old tactical scenarios he thought he'd buried with his military past. Behind him, the children huddle together, Jake and Lucy clutching emergency blankets, Emma scanning the rear sensors with maturity beyond her years, and Sam wide-eyed but silent, sensing the gravity of the moment. Zara sits in the back, her patterns cycling through urgent reds and urgent golds, sending pulses that make the truck's dashboard lights flicker in sympathy. "They're descending fast," Emma reports, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "ETA to Homestead, 12 minutes. Thomas nods, veering onto an even narrower path that winds deeper into the old growth section of the forest. Trees here predating human settlement on Earth, their trunks like ancient pillars holding up the sky. Zara, can you do something about the ship? He asks, not sure what he's even requesting. Zara closes her eyes, her hand still pressed to the window. The forest responds immediately. Vines thicken across the trail behind them, forming natural barricades. Roots erupt from the soil to create pitfalls, and the glowing entities swarm upward, forming a luminous cloud that ascends to the canopy toward the approaching threat. On the hunter's ship, alarms blare as sensors detect anomalous energy readings. Commander! We're picking up massive bioluminescent activity below. It's interfering with targeting systems, the tactical officer shouts. And something's the forest is moving. The commander leans forward, mask reflecting the chaos on the displays. Impossible. It's a primitive world. Deploy ground teams immediately. I want that girl alive. The rest are expendable. Drop pods eject from the ship, streaking toward the forest like meteors, their stealth fields shimmering against the night sky. Back in the truck, Zara's patterns blaze with intensity that fills the cabin with shifting light. They're sending soldiers, she says, her voice layered with harmonics that make the children's teeth vibrate. But the forest, it's fighting back. Indeed. As the first drop pod crashes through the canopy, it impacts not permacrete, but a web of intertwined branches that cushion and then crush the pod, its occupants screaming as bioluminescent spores flood the interior, inducing immediate paralysis. More pods land, but the glowing entities, now revealed as extensions of Earth's ancient biosphere, swarm them, their light song disrupting electronics and overwhelming neural implants. Thomas skids a truck to a halt in a natural clearing ringed by massive oaks. This is as far as we go by vehicle. Everyone out into the trees. The family piles out, Thomas slinging a rifle from the emergency locker, the children grabbing packs. Zara steps onto the mossy ground, and the earth itself seems to welcome her. The soil warms beneath her feet, mushrooms sprout in patterns that match her own, and the air fills with a chorus of insect and animal calls forming a protective symphony. The hunters, elite operatives in powered armor, fan out from their landing sites, weapons humming with plasma charge. But they are not prepared for what awaits. As the first squad advances, trees animate, roots whipping out to ensnare ankles and drag soldiers screaming into the undergrowth. Glowing flowers release pheromones that cause hallucinations of ancient Luminina prima queens, breaking the hunter's resolve. One operative fires wildly into the darkness, his shots absorbed by bark that heals instantly under Zara's influence. Zara, Thomas calls, firing precise shots that disable two approaching figures. Can you reach them, all of them? Zara nods, her patterns expanding into a radiant aura that extends hundreds of meters. She speaks not with words but with light and harmony, broadcasting across the network of life that now recognizes her as its voice. The forest erupts in full defense. Deer charge with antlers lowered, birds die with beaks like daggers, and the very wind carries spores that corrode armor seals. High above, the commander watches in growing horror as ground teams go dark one by one. Abort! Pull back! But it's too late. Zara's power, awakened fully, reaches even to the ship, through the fungal networks extending into the soil and up through atmospheric currents. She interfaces with the vessel systems, bioluminescent particles infiltrating vents, overloading circuits with harmonic resonance. The ship shudders, engines failing as the forest's ancient defenses, dormant since the Luminina Prima's departure, activate planetary-scale protections. The vessel plummets, crashing into a distant mountain with a fireball that lights the horizon. On the ground, the remaining hunters surrender or flee, their sophisticated tech rendered useless against a world that has chosen its queen. Thomas lowers his weapon, staring at Zara in awe as her patterns settle into peaceful blues and greens, the forest quieting around them. The children rush to her, hugging her legs, their faces streaked with dirt and wonder. "You saved us," Emma whispers. Zara kneels, embracing them all, her light enveloping the family like a protective cocoon. "No," she says softly. "We saved each other. This is my home now, our home." In the aftermath, as dawn breaks over forest, news of the incident ripples outward. Galactic authorities, fearing the resurgence of the Luminina Prima, declare Earth a protected sanctuary. Thomas and his children, now guardians of the last queen, watch as Zara communes with the planet, ensuring balance and growth. The broken girl sold as damaged goods has become the bridge between worlds, her light healing not just a family, but an entire ecosystem. And in the crystalline forest of her memories, the trees sing once more of a queen who returned not to rule, but to belong.